Hi, everybody. It's Kim West from the Gentle Parenting Show. And I'm so excited today because today I have Shelley Kemmerer. She is from Run Tell Mom. She is a physician associate, and her business focuses on parental well-being and parental burnout. And I've just been learning all about the amazing things she does. She's like the resource queen for parents. And so today I want, us to kind of dive in with you, Shelley. I want to hear kind of what brought you to this? Like, how did you make this transition in starting this business, Run Tell Mom? And then let's dive in about, what does that mean, parental burnout? Not that we can't all guess. And how do we help parents get to parental well-being?
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here. I'm very excited to be on your podcast. So,
Me too.
so run, tell mom. So should we go into origins first?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I am a PA. As you were saying, we recently went from physician assistant to physician associate. So it's a little bit of a new shift, maybe not official, but that's what the shift is. So I went through my training, and during my clinical period, I became pregnant with my youngest son. And so I kind of noticed throughout my pregnancy, there was like different stages of getting checkups and, seeing patients myself, seeing pregnant patients myself, where there were things that were kind of missing, maybe not necessarily on purpose missing, but, questions that needed to be answered, didn't know if it was the right environment to answer them. The transition of becoming a parent can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable because your whole entire life changes. And so your household's, management of your household changes, relationship might change, um, you know, your occupation might change and how you feel about your occupation. And so in this space, I kind of created a new environment where we can talk about these changes. And for me, what I find so interesting is that a lot of families have some of the same questions. And one of the first things that they say is, well, I don't know who to ask. I don't know if I should be asking my OB. I don't know if I should be asking my pediatrician. I don't know if I should be seeking out a therapist. And so with Run Tell Mom, it's a parental wellness consulting company. So we prioritize well-being by examining some of the modifiable and non-modifiable factors within the home, professional ecosystem. So in a sense, I'm like the hunter-gatherer of parental practical resources. So I listen to the family and I kind of search and curate a practical package for them to utilize throughout their parenting journey. And it's truly different. It's different for everyone. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is I get to know, the family unit and how things run. And it's very complementary to OB care, midwife care, pediatric care. It's not in replacement. It's just a complement to it.
So maybe in a few minutes, we can talk about some of the typical resources that you end up recommending for parents. But let's talk first about who are besides the fact that the people who are calling you and contacting you and attending your workshops and classes are parents, but what do they, without me guessing, what does it mean to you by parental burnout? Like, what are they saying?
So,
or what do you think it is?
Right. So some people, and to be clear, I think sometimes on social media, there are posts and things that allude to parental burnout, but may not actually be parental burnout. It's kind of this catch-all of, oh, I'm just over it. I'm exhausted. But truly, like the three hallmarks of true parental burnout is overwhelming, significant exhaustion related to one's parental role, emotional distancing from one's child or one's children, and then a lack of joy or kind of ineffectiveness within your parenting role. So those are the kind of three hallmarks there. And so for some people, what they kind of look at is, the modifiable and not modifiable. Like I was saying, what are the things within your home or maybe, employment wise, et cetera, that are impacting your stress level? Are there things that you can actually start slowly changing that are simple, reasonable changes that you can change within your home that will kind of impact and overall change with how you parent your child? So sometimes that looks like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my house is a mess, and you know, my partner isn't helping
Right.
with X, Y, and Z. So communication is so big.
Right.
Recognition, communication. What am I taking on? What are they taking on? And how can we work together so that things can be a bit easier, and move more seamlessly? Because for the most part, if you triage your home, urgent versus non-urgent, there's a lot of non-urgent stuff, but it feels
Uh-huh.
urgent. Feels like you need to do it right
Uh-huh.
now. That sink
Right.
is disgusting. I need to do it right now. And
Right.
truly you don't. There's other things that you can be doing. So those are three hallmarks.
Right. Hmm. So then, which, I- you know, I mean, I can imagine that during this pandemic, it's been even harder, right? And you've probably seen more cases of parental burnout because now we were trying to do everything in the home, including sometimes educating our children or getting them to focus on Zoom. And then, God forbid, both parents were trying to work from home on Zoom
Yeah.
also. And,
Mm-hmm.
the house and everything else. It's that I'm sure you must have seen a huge spike in
Yeah.
that,
You know, I recently took I got a certification from the Institute of Parental Burnout, and this started, like, the program kind of was developed pre-pandemic. And so when I looked at some of the cases that they were, you know, talking about, and kind of digging a bit deeper into it, I was thinking, well, now with the pandemic, there is 10 times more pressure for parents to be able to do the things that they wouldn't necessarily have to do before. As you mentioned, you know, the educational component, keeping
right,
your child busy while you're working from home. Let's say a parent loses a job, so there's the
right,
financial instability. You know, for some, it's food
right,
scarcity. So there's a lot of things that, for me, when I started thinking about how do I shape shift this business to be able to impact as many households as possible. And a lot of it is offering resources that already exist and are free. So just shining a light on, like, for instance,
mm-hmm,
211. In our state, for 211, you call and you can get free essential services. And some people don't even know that exists, but it's kind of introducing these things like, hey,
what does that
if this
mean?
already,
Essential.
oh, essential, like, if you need help paying for medical bills, if you need help securing food,
Okay.
you know, paying your electrical bill,
Okay.
things of that nature. So 211
Okay.
actually can be a
Okay.
huge benefit for that.
Hmm.
And some states, you know, they
Yeah.
have this option, but parents don't know. Not every parent knows, like, hey, I can find out about this and
Right.
utilize this resource when I need it,
Right.
so that I don't have to worry about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
constantly scrambling to put food on the table. It's much more than just feeling like, hey, I'm tired and I need a nap. There are some really big issues that have plagued parents over the past year and a half that you try to tackle them all at once, and obviously it's hard, but you know, you can slowly start
Yeah.
inching away at
Yeah.
each thing.
S- Do you find that that parents come to you when it's like really bad? Um, because they're not, they weren't sort of sure which what to address first. Like, I would imagine you feel overwhelmed, but you might not be aware that you've been distancing from your child and, not
Yeah.
feeling a lot of joy.
Yes. So originally, when I kind of created this business, I was more focused on, you know, families who are preparing through a pregnancy for parenthood. And later on,
Right.
as I started kind of pivoting a bit to
Hmm.
include, you know, burnout symptoms and that sort of thing, I started noticing that people are like, I'm just exhausted. I don't know what to do. And the main thing
Hmm.
from my perspective is making sure that they have a healthcare team aside from me, because I am the resource. As you said,
Hmm.
I'm the resource queen. So they need
Hmm.
a solid healthcare
Hmm.
team in place so that they can go, and if they need therapeutic resources, they have a therapeutic resource, if they have an OB, or if they have a pediatrician, if they have a PCP, these people are really a part of your team. So as I said before, communication with the household is key, but also communicating with your care team. They are there for you so that you can essentially you can ask them anything related to your health. And so yes, when people do reach out, they might say some of these things that lead me to believe that they've had all this stress over a long period of time that's just mounting, and they don't know what resources at this point to utilize, because they've gotten to this point where they're like, I'm managing my home, my job, my child, my children. What else can I do? What else do I have to manage now? And how am I supposed to do it? So there's a lot of frustration that comes with that when you get an email, and people contact me for all sorts of things. So it's kind of a detective hat. What do I need to do, and where do I need to send you so that you find exactly what you need, or I help you locate exactly what you need.
And I would imagine a lot of times you're helping them figure out what it is they need before you send them somewhere. Because, sometimes it's hard when we're in it, right? To see clearly the forest,
Yeah.
The trees between the forest. So, yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, I know this is like going to be a hard question. So maybe we could break it down in so that listeners can take away a nugget, even if it's just one, right, to help them.
Sure.
So if there's sort of core areas that you're helping them with, so I heard, communication, organization, nutrition, sleep, mental health. I don't know if there's anything else. Maybe, do you think we could come up with I don't know, a tip in each realm, or how can we make this so that if a parent is listening and they're saying, well, I feel burnt out, so where in the world do I start? Like, how do I know if I need to talk to Shelley at Run Tell Mom or not?
Sure. So in each section, the first thing that I think about is within your household, who is your first resource? So if you are a single parent, who is your first resource? If you have a dual parent household, who is your resource? Is it your partner or is it somebody else? So a lot of this is, as I mentioned, the cultivation of an ecosystem. It's so important because your ecosystem of nutritional support, sleep support, job support, child support, partner support, all of these things really matters, that it is a strong, durable ecosystem, because these are the people that are going to notice when something is off, when you may not notice it in yourself. And so for each of those sections, I would say sleep wise, for parents, it's hard to tell people sleep when the baby sleeps or sleep when your child sleeps, because there's always something to do. There's always cleaning to be done, there's work to be done, etc. So sometimes that feels a little flippant to me to say, just sleep when your child sleeps. So you rely on your first resource and you say, hey, if we're a team, then I want to be able to, sleep during this period, and maybe you can help out here. Let's say that's a dual parent household. Right. So you set somewhat of a schedule, or, like a mutual understanding. This is when I really need help, but you have to communicate and recognize, one, I'm tired, two, I need help. Same with nutrition. Are there small ways that people say, I need to invest in my self-care? What does self-care look like to some people? Is it eating a nutritious meal by yourself without, maybe your child is asking you to turn on the iPad? I mean, this happens to me all the time. Turn on my iPad to get me XYZ, whatever. I need my crayons from over here. I need this. But kind of carve out a time that is, I am eating. This is what I'm doing for my own self-care or self-investment in this moment. I need peace while I eat for 5 minutes. So there's all these little adjustments that we can make in these circumstances that, will kind of decrease the stress. And I think that accounts for, all of the things that you mentioned is kind of the recognition and communication to achieve those other things. And I help to do that by
Yeah.
saying, this is what the picture looks like. And here's where we can make some adjustments so that things can flow a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
smoothly within your household.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we all know, even though I know there's plenty of dads that are listening, that women tend to not be the best. I include myself, although I feel like I've gotten better at this as I've gotten older, for reaching out and asking for help and support. Whether
Sure.
it's from
Sure.
our mother, our sister, our friend, our husband, our partner, whatever it is. So it sounds like that's a key part of a first step.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I think also too, with when I think of like a partnered household or fathers reaching out, mothers reaching out, my goal as a business is I want to be able to be available for all parents. Like, I am
Mm-hmm.
here for you. I am
Mm-hmm.
here no matter if you're a single parent, divorced parent, it doesn't matter to me. I
Right.
I want to help everybody. And so
Yeah.
also reaching out is, dads, instead of just saying, or doing, working out to relieve stress or whatever it is, also make sure that you're resting too. Dads need rest, moms need rest, we
Mm-hmm.
all need rest. So all of this communication of like how we're
Mm-hmm.
feeling, what we're doing, we also need to recognize that our
Mm-hmm.
bodies need to kind of take some
Mm-hmm.
space and say, I need to recharge right now in order to be the parent that I want to be. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that goes for all parents. And I hear from a lot of dads that say we
Mm-hmm.
feel badly asking for more help or telling you that we need something because, moms carry a lot of the burden, maybe household burden, etc. So that's where that
Mm-hmm.
communication
Mm-hmm.
becomes so important between parents. Like, hey, I need it. I need help too. I need rest too. And I'm here to say that all parents
Yeah.
deserve it and all parents need it to be
Yeah.
able to function.
Well, that I agree with that. As the sleep
Yes,
lady,
yes, yes.
we
Of
all need
of
sleep.
course.
It will make us better parents. And it makes
It
our
Yes.
children happier and healthier too, you know? So
Of
it's all,
Yeah, and we know how
it's
we
all,
feel when we
sleep
don't
is
get
everything.
sleep. It
Yeah.
totally is. I mean, it impacts your immune function. It impacts
Yeah.
your blood pressure, everything. And so, that component is really important too. Some people say I haven't set up a sleep schedule for my kid, and so part of that is, can I refer
Right.
you to somebody or give you a
Yeah.
resource so that you can achieve that? Because it's not
Yeah.
just about sleep
Yeah.
training a child. The parent needs rest as well, and
Right.
sleep. They're different, but
Yeah. And so does the child, to do all the amazing things
sure.
that they're doing. There was something that you just said. So many things that we could talk about it with this. By the way, I also feel like if you can, if you were a parent that just wasn't really into schedules, was more like a fly by the seat of your pants, and that worked well for you. And then you have a child, and not all kids will fall into that, and most children need some framework or routine throughout the day. And so I know I've had
Mm-hmm.
many conversations with parents over the years of like, well, I don't, not really that's not my jam, I don't really like schedules. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to talk about like, yes, but this little being will do better with one, because they don't
Yeah.
understand like after we have lunch, we're going to have a nap. Like they can't understand that like we can. And so
Yeah.
it does help to bring structure in the day, because then you also can plan, oh, I can make some phone calls then, or I could whatever, answer some emails for work, or whatever it is,
Yes.
right, in your life. Like, I just feel like once your child knows how to put themselves to sleep through the night, take naps, like, not only is your life better, and it impacts your relationships, but it makes
Mm-hmm.
life easier, you know
Yes. There's predictability.
exactly.
There's a set
Hmm.
structure. There's comfort
Hmm.
in the predictability.
Right. And
that the children
children,
have.
yeah, and our children receive the same thing, that comfort. I was thinking about going back to your point about communication and asking for support, um, whether it's, as a single parent or a partnered parent, that one of the dynamics that I've seen, and apparently there's some clinical term for it called maternal gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more where we, as the mom, uh, sort of feel like we should do everything, and because
Mm-hmm.
now we're the mother, and we should know everything about what the child needs, and of course, doing this usually leads to burnout, because
Mm-hmm.
we can't do everything on our own. Not to
Right.
mention our kids really need both of us,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes I've noticed in with the clients I've worked with, and of course my own journey, as a mom. My kids are older now, but I feel like our children are our teachers, in so many ways, and
Mm-hmm.
we are theirs
Very
too,
much so.
but being able to let go and let our
Yes.
partners do things for us, with us, for the baby, that may not be the way we would have done it, or may not be as
Yes.
well as we would have done it. Right? But
Totally
I mean, it's
agree.
easy to say, but it can be hard to do.
It is. And I just posted on this. I did an IG live with Dr. Sheehan
Hmm.
Fisher, and he's in perinatal psych. And
Hmm.
one of the things that we talked about, which try to plug as much as possible, is cross training with your partner. As
Uh-huh.
when I mentioned that before, cross training, what that looks like is, can you make this kind of fun and exciting and a new bonding experience between you and your partner to say, hey, like my husband likes to grill. I don't like to grill.
Hmm.
I'm not good at grilling, not my thing.
Me either.
Can he teach me that? So that, yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yes.
But can
Yeah.
he teach me how to grill? So if he needs to get, a report done for work or whatever the case may be, that I can do it. Or if he needs a rest, the same with me. So, he's able to go
Mm.
grocery shopping, clean the house, or do it, whatever, he needs to do. But we have to communicate like, hey, maybe this is the way that I do it. You are going to do it differently because you're
Right.
your own person, and that's
Hmm.
fine. That's you're bringing your
Hmm.
individuality to whatever it is that you're doing, and having that understanding that, yes, maybe you clean a little bit differently, or you organize a little differently, or
Hmm.
you're the one who typically schedules the doctor's visits. Guess what? Here's the phone number
Hmm.
to the doctor's office.
Right.
You can also call. You can
Right.
schedule a dentist appointment. It's not that they're incapable
Right.
of doing it. We need to really, really, especially now, rely on each other for assistance. And, as
Yeah.
I said, with single
Yeah.
parenting, who is your first resource? That is going to be your go to if you're feeling like, hey, I'm getting a bit more exhausted. My body feels like I'm a bit stressed out. Can I rely on something
Hmm.
else or someone else a bit more to be able to achieve the job or
Hmm.
do the things that I need to do? And a lot of that is kind of self recognition of
Hmm.
stress, which I like getting into that
Hmm.
dorky stuff of what, your body goes through during
Yeah.
stress. Um, and that's
Yeah.
something that I offer too, is kind of like, a science lecture of, what is your body
Uh-huh.
going through during this stage, or postpartum wise, what is your body going through, pregnancy, what is your body going through? So yeah, you
Hmm.
you brought up a good point. Like, both parents can do this and help in some way,
Hmm.
but you need
Hmm.
to organize that to happen.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, at least in most cases, we go into parenthood often not discussing with our partner, what kind, how do you want to parent? What kind of parent do you want to
Mm-hmm.
be? I mean, I remember, in grad school, there was this one class where they talked about grandparenting, and
Mm-hmm.
how we all have expectations of how we think our parents should be with our kids, but we never
Mm-hmm.
talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
and how it leads to
Right.
that, disappointment or mismatch. And I've often thought, well, isn't that true about parenting too? Because we all come from our
Mm-hmm.
role models, with our parents that we may want to have it be the same, or we may want it to be different. But then and then our partner has the same history. And so are we ever talking about like how we feel about parenting? I mean, I know I even
Mm-hmm.
encourage, parents to think about if you're just, deciding on where you want your baby to sleep, you should talk about that together. You should have a
Mm-hmm.
plan in
Mm-hmm.
case it doesn't work out the way you originally thought, but
Yeah. Set things up
yeah,
together. Do these things together. People prepare. When I thought about it originally, like, hey, I prepared the whole prepare your
right,
nest idea,
right,
which is, you prepare the room, you set everything up.
yeah,
Once I had my son and I put him into the car, I have a clinical degree.
right,
I read every book. I listened to podcasts and all this stuff. I sat next to him. I stared at him and I'm like, what the hell do I do now? I
right.
take him home, right? Yes, obviously. Okay, you take him home. You take him home, and then I set him. Took him in his carrier, locked him all up, watched him the whole time as we drove home because I was so
Right,
fascinated by him. We were in the hospital for a few days.
yeah,
I had a C-section,
yeah,
but and he
mm-hmm.
brought him home and then showed him around the house. I'm like, I guess this is what I do, right? I show him his space. So I'm like, this is your room where you won't be sleeping right away, but this is your space and this is, how things go. And then after that, it was like a cascade of events, which is okay, now I have to figure out breastfeeding because that was my choice. I wanted to
yeah,
breastfeed. Didn't, occur
yeah,
for as long as I had wished for, but you have to have some self compassion. It didn't work out the way that I anticipated or I expected
right,
it to work out. But
mm-hmm.
having to figure that
Mm-hmm.
out, sleep with a newborn, talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
challenging. And parents all have this discussion with each other. I'm getting,
yeah,
I feel like crap, I'm not getting a lot of sleep, my house is a mess. Is this how things are going to be forever? And no, it's not.
mm-hmm.
But in that moment
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. So what can we do to kind of
a
prepare
hundred
for this?
percent.
So those conversations,
Yeah, yeah,
grandparents, what are your expectations for grandparent
yeah,
visitation? Especially now it's different than what it was before. So
yeah,
outlining
yeah,
that and setting boundaries and saying, well, maybe not
mm-hmm.
right now, we're not going to have a visitor, however you want to organize that. But reiterating, like, there's a reason why I'm doing this, and I'm doing this because my
Mm-hmm.
body needs rest. My family here have to get into a routine for sleep because
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
important, right? So yeah, you bring up a good point. These are all things that one needs to discuss, and we actually offer those
yeah,
courses now, which is you bring us your questions and we try to figure out through those questions, like, what are some things that you would like to address with grandparents, caregivers, your partner, etc., to set up a plan to ease into parenting, because it kind of can shock the system for some people.
I bet. So then maybe, in these last few minutes, tell us a little bit about how you work with the family, about your workshops and the
Sure.
things that, the resources that you have for parents.
Sure. So, if a family contacts me and they're looking for a resource or don't necessarily know what they're looking for, we kind of just do a deeper dive into what would you like your household to look like, or what are your kind of parenting goals. And so we kind of go through that, and that's either doing that, one parent requests it, or a couple requests it. Maybe sometimes grandparents. I've heard from people, oh, I have a grandparent that's looking to figure out how to help, but they don't necessarily know how they should be helping me in this circumstance. So I'm
Uh-huh.
happy to help either way. It doesn't matter. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things. And as far as with parental burnout, a lot of this is just securing and making sure that you have the team in place that you need, that is necessary to
Mm-hmm.
you, navigating these symptoms. And then how do you manage after burnout? What do you do after burnout to
Right.
kind of make sure that you don't burn out again? So it's
Right.
setting those resources, getting those resources in place, and making, working with the modifiable changes
Mm-hmm.
within your household. And then if something is non-modifiable, is there something that can help that circumstance or
Uh-huh.
situation to kind of alleviate some of that stress? So those things are
So that's if
all,
a family,
very.
mm,
Oh, go ahead, go
sorry.
ahead.
So that's
It's
what would
okay.
happen if a parent works with you one on one, right? If they work
Yes,
with you one on
and
one, that's
with
what
the
you do.
work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so with some of the workshops that I offer, I'm going to start offering, there's four main workshops, and then I'm doing a collaboration with actually another MSW, Donzel Lampkins, his name is. I met him through
Uh-huh.
Instagram. Great guy. We've collaborated a ton of times. We're going to be offering a workshop for parents with children with chronic conditions. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of making sure you have the resources in place, whether that's like a financial resource or, household wise, you need household help. We're going to be offering
Mm-hmm.
that together. Some of the other ones, I could just pull up my phone to bring up the last four that I've decided to do, because there's
Mm-hmm.
there's so many right now that I'm like,
I bet.
we
I
need to
could
get
think
all
of
of
a
these out
million
kind of
for
at the
you.
same time. Well, there's one is cultivating your ecosystem for pregnancy and postpartum support. So what we create is a startup guide for personalized resources for your entire family.
Mm-hmm.
And, that being a
Nice.
workshop, it's $15. It's going to be recurring on a monthly basis. There's another one, supportive resources for families impacted by cancer. That's free, that I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
offering. And that's going to be another recurring one. And then the science of pregnancy and postpartum parenthood. I always think it's so important to have parents understand, if it's a dual parent household, what are the changes involved? What are the hormones
Mm-hmm.
involved? Body wise, healing wise, what is involved? Pregnancy and postpartum period, to understand what your birthing partner is going through, because there are
Right.
some major shifts in your body,
Mm-hmm.
mind, brain
Mm-hmm.
wise, that are occurring,
Yeah.
that if you have kind of a, an understanding, mutual understanding of this, that you could kind of navigate these changes a bit better. So that's another one. So how do
Mm-hmm.
your bodies change during pregnancy and
Mm-hmm.
postpartum? And then the other one is partner resources for collaborative household support. So if you're coming and saying, I feel like my partner could be doing more, or whatever the case may be, here are some things in the household that we can do this kind of cross training, or
Mm-hmm.
exchange of ideas, so that the
Mm-hmm.
household can kind of work a bit, more seamlessly. So it's supporting your birthing partner and understanding, what occurs there too, like how much are they
Mm-hmm.
able to do when they're healing, or if they're feeling burnt out or exhausted, how can you help and
Mm-hmm.
offload? So those are the main
Mm-hmm.
ones.
That's great. And I'm sure there'll be more to come because there's
Yeah.
so many different areas that you can help a family. That's amazing, Shelley.
Yeah,
Great.
those were the main ones right now, because of the need. People are like, hey, let's talk. We've been talking about this on social media, we're talking about this in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
email, etc. So I said, best way to do this is you create a webinar. You can start recording it so you can access it at any time. It's cost
Yep.
effective. Any parent or caregiver can attend. That's how we're doing it. And then of course one-on-one
Perfect.
consult. But I think the webinars are just so convenient
Yeah.
and fun
Yeah.
too. I want it to be
Exactly.
fun.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and easy to consume. Yeah. Fun is important because we've all been
Yeah.
spending a lot of time, not having fun in the last year and a half as much. So,
Yeah, and being creative and collaborative with your partner,
yeah.
or with other people. It's like an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to meet some other
Mm-hmm.
people that might have an awesome
Mm-hmm.
idea that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
come up with, but somebody else did, and
Right.
that's a great way
Yeah.
to form community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important, right? Like Brene Brown says, we are wired for connection. It is what we all need as humans.
Yes,
So that connection and support
yes,
is so
it is.
important. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your
Yeah, we
time
can't parent
today.
alone.
No. Well, I mean, if we're a
Absolutely.
single parent, we have to parent alone. But maybe, like, to your point, maybe we still have to parent with a support system around us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Exactly. Single parents,
Yeah.
dual parent household, we have to have some sort of a community or some kind of resource, supportive resource to rely on at times that will help us be a better parent.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, you're never alone. We see a lot of those memes online, like,
Yeah.
you are not alone. It's true.
Yeah.
This is the community that we weave, and that's the whole purpose of this. So
Excellent. Well, thank you again for your time. And for all you listeners, you can find more about Shelley and Run Tell Mom and follow her on social media and visit her website by going to sleeplady.com/podcast. We'll have all the links there to reach her, but you can also just go directly to her site for now. Thank you for this episode. And if you've enjoyed it, I hope that you'll download it and subscribe and rate and review it. Thanks again, Shelley, for your time.
thank you, Kim. It was great. Thank you.